Assalamu alaikum. This part of the lecture is related to rules of past form of regular verbs. As you know that we are dealing with a portion of phonology, and phonology is one of the aspects of phonology is to deal with the sounds and the impact of the sounds because of the neighboring sounds. So you will see that in this topic as well. So first of all, we need to see that what is the difference between regular and irregular verbs. Regular verbs are those that take ed ending in their past form, that is second form of the verb, and past participle, that is third form of the verb. Some examples are here. Play, this is the first form. Played, second form, that is called past form. And played, this is the past participle. So that is why they are called regular, because there is a regular pattern of ending at ed. You will find this ed to tell that this is the second form of the verb or third form of the verb. Okay, and irregular verbs, as the name indicates, they don't have any pattern. They have their own past forms. They don't follow any rule. For example, look at the words eat, first form, second ate, third eaten. Begin is the first form, began, it is past form, and begun is the past participle. So past form is the second form of the verb and past participle is the third form of the verb. So this is the major difference between the regular verbs and the irregular verbs. The topic, remember, is related to rules of past form of regular verbs, those ending in ed. Okay. So let's see how does it happen. The construction of regular past tense verbs is generally done by adding this d or ed. If we have to make any past form of the verb, sometimes we add d. For example, look at the word agreed. The word is agree and only d is added. And sometimes ed is added. Look at the words asked, that is ed, and this is ed. So sometimes d is the marker for the second form of the verb or third form of the verb, and sometimes ed. Okay, so if you see these words ASKED, AGREED, ACCEPTED, they all look same in spellings. The ending is ed, spelling ending is ed, and spelling ending is ed. So where is the difference? What does differ between these all is the pronunciation. This ed, and ed will have a different pronunciation. It is not always d. Okay, how does it happen then? For some verbs, this ed is a voiceless sound like t. We will see the examples also. As in the word asked. In some, it is a voiced sound, that is d, as in agreed. And in some, it's pronounced like id, as in accepted. Okay, so here you need to see that before this ed, what actually is the sound. It is the voiceless sound. Here if you see agree, this is a voiced sound, vowel. And here if you see, that is the category of the and it in the words accepted. Okay, so because of this pronunciation of the, it, there are three groups of the verbs. Okay, look at the group A. Group A includes all those verbs which end in voiceless sound. If we take the first form of the verb, these first forms will end in any of the voiceless sounds. So some of the examples of voiceless sounds I have mentioned here. I hope you can recall voiceless sounds are the sounds which are uttered without causing any vibration in the vocal cords, which are there in our voice box. That is there in the throat. Okay, so these are some of the sounds. H, k, s, sh, and these end in ed. So when ending ed is because of these first form of the verbs, this ed will be pronounced as th. So here again, if you see that there is no one-to-one correspondence between the letters and sounds, ed does not always mean that it will be asked or it will be helped. So that it's because of the last sound of the verb. We will see the examples ahead. Okay, so note the pronunciation. How you're going to note? You have to note what pronunciation of this ed that is different in these three groups. It's the sound that determines the group that a word belongs to. not always the written letter. It is not always the written ed. It is actually the sound before that ed. So for example, if you look at the word dance, fine. So what is the final sound? Don't look at the CE. C is just a letter. I have given you assignment also related to the one-to-one correspondence, that how sounds may be represented by different letters. Okay, let's see some more examples to understand. Okay, in all these examples, if you see that, as we have discussed in the previous slide, the first form of the verb is ending in voiceless sound. Ask, k is voiceless. Brush, sh is voiceless. Dance, dance is voiceless. If you see the word fix, sir is voiceless. Help, her is voiceless. And look at the word laugh. It is not laugh, that is laugh. Now here you do not find any letter F, but again the sound is of F sound. Okay, so if we see the transcription of these first forms of the verbs, it is actually this: a, s, k, b, r, a, sh, d, a, n, s, I, k, h, e, l, p, l, e. So these all are first forms of the verb ending in a voiceless sound, in which vocal cords do not vibrate. That's why I have made them bold to tell that these are the voiceless sound, and the verb end in, and means the last sound in the verb is voiceless. K voiceless, sh voiceless, s. This is also, and here you will find a different spelling for this. Okay. So what happens that this ed will be pronounced as t in all these cases. Why? Because before this t, the sound is voiceless. Before this t, the sound is voiceless. So how you are going to pronounce it? It is not asked. The correct pronunciation will be asked. T sound is there for ed. So it is not brushed. That is brushed, danced, fixed, helped, and laughed. It is not loved, it is not helped. So this ed ending has the sound of t, because before this ed we have a voiceless sound. So because of, now see, this is the impact of the sound on ed, the impact of the sound that is coming before that. Okay, in rule number 2, what we have is, if you have grasped this rule, then the second rule will be very easy for you, because that is just the opposite of that. That if first form of the verb ends in a voiced sound. First we have talked about the verb ending in voiceless sounds, and now we are talking about the words ending in voice sound. Okay. Uh, okay. So these are some voiced sounds I have mentioned here. L, v, n, m, b. Okay, this is repeated. G. All vowel sounds. In vowel we have triphthongs, we have diphthongs. They are actually voice sounds. So when a verb ends in any of these voice sounds, ed ending is uttered as the. Okay, look at the word advise here. Don't look at the letter S, because I have given you the example also in assignment that this letter S can have S sound, this letter S can have Z sound. I have given the example of bus and busy. Okay. So similarly, here also this advice is actually ending in Z sound. Okay. And keeping that word in this voice sound group. So what happens that the word is allowed. So this final ed would be heard or would be pronounced as the. Okay, let's see some more examples. Okay, here look at the word interview. Interview is actually the first form of the verb and ending in, I have made this bold, the last sound is oo, vowel. All vowels are voiced. Look at this jail. l, and this is also made bold. Phone, live, slam. Okay. So now before this ed, what happens that the sound is voiced. This is voiced, this is voiced. The sounds that are bold are actually voiced, and because of these voiced sounds, ed would become d. So you will pronounce it like interviewed, jailed, j sound, found, lived, slammed. So here you need to see what is the ending sound of the verb, that is u, l, n, and there are many more examples for other voiced sounds. Okay, then there is a third category. In this category, we put all the verbs that either end in t or d. This is a totally different category. And you yourself will realize that while pronunciation, we actually apply this rule, but we don't know that what is the reason behind it. Okay, so if any of the verbs end in t or d, this ed would be pronounced as it. Okay, look at this word plant ending in ter, excite ending in ter, ground ending in de, attend ending in de. So what happens when we add this ed or d to these endings, to these verbs? They will become planted, excited, ground it, attend it. So in flow, they will be pronounced as planted, excited, grounded, and attended. So these are actually the rules related to past forms of regular verbs. All those verbs which end in ed or d. So because of the sound that is coming before this ed, what happens? This ed has to change is its sound, that is t, d, id. You can find many more examples for these rules. Thank you so much.